Hello there. Welcome to DevOps and Azure. DevOps and Azure is a channel created to focus on cloud diagnostic DevOps techniques. So, in this session today, we will be learning about how to provision and launch Linux VM on Azure using command line, how to open up ports on this virtual machine for inbound and outbound communication, how to install Java, Jenkins, and Git, and at the end of the session, we will also be learning about how to launch Jenkins via web browser and log in into Jenkins. So let's start with provisioning and launching our virtual machine via Azure. So let's switch to Azure portal. So this is an Azure portal, and I'm going to launch my Azure command line. So this is my Azure command line. So in order to create resources on Azure, we need to have a resource group. So we need to have a resource group. Under each resource group, we tag our resources. So since I don't have any resource group, I would start with creating a resource group and then create a virtual machine under that resource group. So first, let's create our resource group using the Azure command az group create, the name, what I want to name my resource group, name, DevOps is my resource group name, and I want to create this resource group in the location East US. So the output is in the JSON format, and I can see that the provision status succeeded. So since I have created my resource group, now I would go ahead and create my virtual machine under this resource group. So in order to create the virtual machine, I would use the command Azure virtual machine create under resource group, whatever the resource group I create, that is DevOps. And I want to continue this command line. Since I have multiple parameters to add to this command, I would use the // so that it takes me to the next line. And I would want to name my virtual machine as Jenkins server. And I would want my virtual machine to be based on an CentOS image. So I would want to specify my admin username with which I want to log in into my virtual machine once it is created. So I will specify the admin username which I want to use. And I also want to generate SSH keys. So click on enter. And now Azure should start working on provisioning and virtual machine for your request. So this takes few seconds, like 10 to 12 seconds. So meantime, I want to quickly show you where I can get all this Azure commands. Go on to Google and click on Azure CLI documentation. Search on this and you would get this overview of Azure CLI Microsoft Docs. So click on this and it should give you an beautiful overview of the documentation by Azure. So here Azure has the documentation for all the CLI commands. This is the documentation to start with, basically. And this document describes the commands which can be used to create virtual machine, and it also explains the various parameters that are being used as part of this command. So this document also has a provision for new beginners or learners to practice these commands on the Azure command line on the same page. So for this, all you have to do is activate Sandbox. So once you click activate Sandbox, it will ask you for your details. So before this, you will have to create an account with Azure. So Azure provides a free tier portal with I think $200 credit for beginners or learners who want to start learning Azure. And after that, it will ask you to enroll for pay as you go subscription. So with $200 credit, I think initial learning is far more sufficient. And once you create your free account, you can give your credentials, and it will, I think it will send you a security code, and then it will activate your sandbox on this page, and you can practice all the commands. You can create your virtual machine, you can add stuff to your virtual machine, install various stuff, everything on this page, and it is free. So this sandboxes are active. I think per day you get 8 free sandboxes, and these are limited. These have limited time validity. So these are not being charged. So you can use as much as you want. So okay. This being said, let's go back to our command line. Yes, we see that our virtual machine creation is finished, and this is the public IP address of the virtual machine. So since our virtual machine is created using Azure command line, this virtual machine should also be present on our Azure portal. So let's quickly go and check our virtual machine if it's present on our portal. This is Azure portal under all resources. So we created Jenkins server. So this is our Jenkins server virtual machine which we created. And if you see, this is the public IP, which was given as an output in the JSON format. And if you see, we created an CentOS machine. Operating system is Linux, CentOS, and the computer name, the server name is Jenkins server, and this is the public IP address. Beautiful. And you can see the size, the storage of the virtual machine. So now let's go back to our command line. So since we have our virtual machine created, and our intent for this to create this virtual machine is to install Jenkins server. So once the Jenkins server is installed, we would want to access Jenkins server via web browsers, right? So in order to allow the internet to communicate to the server, we will have to open up particular ports. So let's go ahead and open a port for Jenkins to communicate with the internet, inbound and outbound. So to open a port, I would use Azure command easy virtual machine open port, which is present in the resource group DevOps, and the name of the virtual machine is Jenkins server. Sorry. All these commands will be given in the description below, and in case if you have any questions, please feel to drop an email and I will respond to you. If you see, access is allow type, and it is inbound type, and the priority is 1001, and we have the port 8080, and this is succeeded. So along with this, Azure does a very good job of opening up all the necessary ports, which would help protect the security of the virtual machine and for all the necessary communications. So now we have port opened up. So we will quickly go back and copy the we have Azure command to show the IP address of the virtual machine as well. I don't want to use that at this point of time because it's really very quick to go and get the IP address from the portal. So that's what I did. Or you can scroll back and get the IP address from our previous output as well. I would be using the commands more often in our next sessions. So since I have copied my IP address, I'm going to log in into my virtual machine. So I will use SSH, and I will use the admin username, which is Jenkins, to log in my virtual machine. Yes. So I have logged in into my virtual machine. So now since we have logged in into our virtual machine, the intent of this virtual machine is to install Jenkins on it. So in order to install Jenkins, the prerequisite is Java. Because Jenkins is a Java application, we would need Java to be already installed on this virtual machine. Since we have created a virtual machine now and we don't have Java, we will go ahead and install Java. So to install Java, let's do sudo yum install java 1.8.0 open jdk. Okay, there's a small mistake in the command. Whoops, a small hyphen here. So Java is installed. Let's check if it's installed properly. So you can check that by using the command java hyphen version. Yes, Java version 1.8.0 is installed. So once Java is installed, now let's go and quickly install Jenkins. So I have this Jenkins commands in Notepad here. So I'll quickly go and get this. So in order to install Jenkins, what we do is, the first step is to import the GPG key so that we enable Jenkins repo, and then we add the repo to our system, and then we install Jenkins. So first let's get the GPG key. So we got the GPG key using the command, and now let's add the repo to our system. And let's install Jenkins. So Jenkins is installed, and now we have to start Jenkins server, right? So we start Jenkins server by using sudo system ctl start Jenkins. And we have started Jenkins. So now let's check the status of Jenkins. Sudo system ctl status Jenkins. We see that the Jenkins server is active and it's running. Fine. Now since we have installed Java and Jenkins, let's go and quickly install Git also. So to install Git, what we do is sudo yum install Git. Yes. So Git installation is complete. Let's check Git version. Git hyphen version. We have Git version 1.8.3.1. Perfect. Now let's quickly get the IP address of the virtual machine one last time. And let's launch virtual machine. Let's launch Jenkins. So what does it say? To ensure Jenkins is securely set up by admin, a password has been written to the log, and this will be filed on the server. So on the server where the Jenkins is installed, in this location, the initial admin password is located. So let's copy this path and go back to our server where we installed Jenkins in the command line, and let's get the password. We get that by using cat command, cat, and the path, whatever we got from the Jenkins page, we paste it here. So cat is nothing but it reads the contents of the file. So we got the content of that file, and this is the content of the file, and we just copy that and go to the home, this Jenkins page, and we paste it. Paste and continue. So we have two options, select plugins to install or select suggested plugins. I would go with install suggested plugins. It takes real quick 2 seconds, 2 to 5 seconds to install, and we should be done. And we create username here. So I would create DevOps. Save and continue. And this is the URL for Jenkins. So copy and save it. Finish. Let's start using Jenkins. This is